All right, Bud. Can we talk about the legendary progressive rock band Yes?
Absolutely. One of my favorite people, band people, was to be with Yes. They were such nice guys, all of them. And I started with Yes in 1971, actually April 11th.
Wow, the exact
Yeah, the
date.
exact
You got a
date.
great memory.
Yeah, we got because that was the day that Jethro Tull did Aqualung at the Alexandria Roller Rink, and the opening act, which Premiere put together, it was Premiere that talent that booked it, was the first Yes dates. They opened for Jethro Tull
Wow.
as Aqualung. And the story goes that that's famous to me because their very first album came out, and Tony Kaye was playing keyboards for Kiss,
Yes.
Yes
Yep.
on those dates. Now in 71, we had Jethro Tull had all this equipment. We were doing the show at Alexander Roller Rink. I was concerned because we had two shows and they were sold out, about that anything would happen with the weather.
Yeah.
So I rented a generator and we put the generator outside, ran the cables into the second floor of the Alexandria Roller Rink, and it was just there.
Yeah, your backup system. Just in case.
Backup
Yeah,
system
yeah.
is still. So, but with everything, and this is a roller rink, it took up all this room. So I had I had Yes opening the show, and I had no place to put their, with the dressing room was the skate storage room. So what I did is I put the band in a bus, and I took butcher's paper, and I covered all the windows of the bus so you couldn't see in the bus. But in the bus was all of the band members. The Arrest with John Anderson was singing lead. Chris Squires was playing guitar. I think Steve Howe was in. And but these guys were all in a bus.
And you're driving the bus, right?
I'm riding the bus. I'm riding the bus.
This is before they're famous, yeah.
And we're going around
Okay.
St. Asaph's block
Gotcha.
until I had a roadie inside.
Uh-huh.
And once, we opened the doors, we got this. Once we got set, and he was ready for the opening band. He came out as we were going around the block and said, "Okay, bud, bring them on."
Yeah.
And this is 81. We brought the band in with Tony K playing keys, and it was a 30-minute, I guess, set, maybe 40 minutes. And they were over and out. I took them back to the hotel, and in the meantime, my roadies got the stage ready for Jethro Tull. They went on, did the show, and that was it. And that was 1971. Now, I came back with them in 74. In 1974, they released, I'm pretty sure, Closer to the Edge.
Okay.
And you've got a pass.
This is a backstage pass you gave me from 1976. U.S. tour, yep.
Yep. And they were still touring now in 76. But now in 74, they went out on their first headline tour. They had the Closer to the Edge album that was the top 10 album. We had Tony Kaye had been replaced by Rick Wakeman, and and then John Anderson was singing lead, and everybody was that was 74, and it was big for a number of reasons. One, Roger Dean, the artist, had designed all of the props from Closer to the Edge. You look at the album cover, and it was all these pieces, and it was the credit on the album was to Roger Dean for all of these special. It was. I remember Rick Wakeman in particular. Rick was with them in 74, and it was like a tube on stage, and when the band, the lights went down, the special effects, and Rick Wakeman was up and back, and there was a tube, and he had that gorgeous blonde hair, and when they started, he came through the tube and down to his keyboards.
Cool.
And that was all. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was all part of it. Now, the big thing that I do remember too, this was this is 74. This was one of the first tours where you had more than one semi, and you had a second semi and a backstage area, because these props, they were all fiberglass, like the microphones were covered in fiberglass. Rick Wakeman came through this tube in fiberglass. And of course, with everything was wear and tear. So after the show, when they the roadies packed up to go to the next city, we would unload early, and then we would lay out all these fiberglass pieces, the mic covers, the tube that Rick came through, and then we'd repair. And Roger Dean was on the tour. And they also had a special sound guy, a lighting guy. He was from Clare Brothers, and he got credit. He was out there. I mean, it was a typical for today, but for that time, it was very avant-garde. And the tour was really successful. And then we used the same backstage pass in 76. And by 76, Rick Wakeman had left, and keyboard been replaced by Patrick Moretz.
Gotcha.
And Patrick wound up going to Moody Blues ultimately. But Patrick was a little looser than Rick Wakeman, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, that tour was fun, and they were into microbionics. We had to have a catered special.
Yeah, I remember this story.
And we were in Binghamton, and we had a lunch set up, microbiome, this and that, and the caterer didn't have the right water. They came to me. It was Harry M. Stevens, the caterer. I still remember. And they said, "Hey, Bud, water." We had a banquet table for the band, and downstairs, and they said, "Hey, we got everything except water." And I thought, well, hey, water's okay. They had glasses, and they had pitchers of tap
Yeah,
water.
yeah.
So fine, and everybody is eating whatever lunch thing, and all of a sudden, I think it was John Anderson, says, "Bud, excuse me, is this tap water?" and and yeah, I mean, they could tell the difference between water and it was. Yeah, I said, yeah, we're sorry, we had a problem. He said, okay, yeah, and the rest of the dinner was fine and
Yeah, I'm big
dandy.
on spring water myself, so I know what.
And so
he was
yeah,
going
but
for, yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
if I figured
Yeah.
water is water,
Yeah.
as long as it's not
If you're
brown.
thirsty enough, yeah, if you're thirsty
if it's
enough.
brown or something, yeah, you worry. Okay, so I think, but I remember it was John Anderson, and they might have been talking among themselves because it was Chris Squire, John, So we got through that. Now the other part of the Yes tour
Yeah.
stories.
I know what story you're going to tell now. This is a
This
good
is
one.
John Anderson.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Okay, so my job with Yes was they would go up when they would go on for Closer to the Edge. They had this intro, and the band all would go up, and John Anderson, the lead singer, I would have a flashlight and I would take him over to, especially Binghamton, to the foot of the steps that led up to the stage where the band would perform, to do their set. So I had the flashlight because it was dark in the theater. Everything was dark. And I walked him over to the stairs. So we're standing at the bottom of the stairs of the stage. It's dark in the theater. I've got the flashlight showing John the steps, and he looks at me, and I'm wearing what was then new, the parachute pants. And they had these parachute pants, and they were really cool, if you remember.
Yeah.
And the boutique around the corner from the
But
arena.
he loved those pants that you had
Well,
on.
wait a minute. I'm explaining.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
the pants, they were from this boutique that was around the corner.
Okay.
And I had got the pants because the boutique owner, I had gotten tickets for the show. I let him sell tickets at his boutique.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing there with the light on, and John looks at me and says, "Bud, where'd you get those pants?" And I said, "Oh, at so-and-so's boutique around the corner."
That's funny.
He says, "I really like those." And I said, "Oh, John, we'll get the limo to pick you up in the morning, and I'll go over there with you, and you can pick out a couple pairs." He said, "Okay." And then John goes up and starts the full set. The lights come up. The typical Yes situation. So, and everybody's great. Sold out. Food was right. Everything. Okay, fine. The next morning, I'm getting ready. I get a knock on my door at the hotel, the Treadway we were staying at like 9:30. I open the door. It's John Anderson. And I said, "John, what? Remember, you're going to take me over to the boutique. I can get those pants." I said, "Oh, shit." So the limo, John's got his limo for the band parked out in front of the Treadway, and he's going upstairs to get me. And I said, "Okay, fine." I don't know if I was dressed, I wasn't, but I get down with John and the limo. We drive around the block to the boutique at Double Park, and I get out and John gets out, and we go up to but the door, they don't open till 10 o'clock. So I said to John, they're opening at 10. We'll go around. So we went around the block a couple of times, and I think somebody saw us or something. Anyway, I get John in there. He picked out, I think, 3 pairs of parachute pants. And the owner was so starstruck that he didn't charge for them. And he gets them, put them in the car, went back to the treadway.
That's funny.
And then we went, I think we went to the airport. I think Syracuse, believe it or not, something like that was one of the next tour dates. And we had T-shirts. Somewhere I had all the dates, T-shirts made up and given to the road crew.
Wow.
I don't know what happened to them, but Yes was huge, and that music, Closer to the Edge, that they were big. They came right after Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I did Emerson, Lake and Palmer first American tour at the roller rink, and then later on, the band came in. Yes came in, and John Anderson, after the band broke up, he did solo stuff. I think his daughter is actually a musician still, but the band itself, all those guys.
I went to the concert in Merriweather in 1994. Here's a ticket.
My
I
God.
tell you what, I love that show. That was.
Oh,
they kicked butt. I mean.
Oh yeah,
Yes was great.
they what they were like is with Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and I did them, Lucky Man and stuff. They would drag their music out. You had to really be into what they were doing. Whereas with Yes, they were, let's go. Let's get it started. It's complicated, but it's quick. 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and they were on to the next song.
Yeah.
And I remember, they were one of the opening acts when they did the stadium. It was Peter Frampton, and it was Yes and one other band at the stadium. And I was invited to go because I was home. Since they were playing there, I set it up, and I lived in Gaithersburg, and I went home to Gaithersburg.
Was that RFK Stadium?
Yes.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
where Bruce,
it was
Bruce
Yes.
Springsteen's Born in the USA tour there.
Well, no, it was before that.
Yeah.
That's where they wound up.
Gotcha.
But it was before. It was like It was before Kiss, not Kiss. You keep talking. Yeah, it was Yes. It was Yes, and it was what's his name? The Peter Frampton.
Mm-hmm.
It was Peter Frampton. Yes, and there was one other band at the stadium, and we were at the stadium for Rolling Stones were there at one point, and that was 72. In fact, my future wife was at that show, and in 72. I didn't know her then, but I was sitting up in the press box, and she was down on the floor.
Yeah, I think Born in USA was like 1985 or something. I remember having
Yeah, it
Born
was
in
late.
USA T-shirt.
It was. Oh yeah, it was.
And that whole stadium was shaking.
Yeah, because
the E Street Band was playing with it. Yeah, it was.
I remember it because in there when I started going with Debbie, she was always into music, but she was really into Bruce Springsteen, and I was working at Civic Center then, and I remember getting her tickets for her and her girlfriend to go to see the show, and with Bruce, and I had no idea. And later on, she got me to the first Bruce Springsteen. I think it was Born to Run, and I was sold.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember she talked about it later. I couldn't get him there, and then I couldn't get him out of there. I mean,
That's funny.
yeah, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band were truly legendary.
Yeah, that whole era, just Yes, and
Yep.
they were just iconic.
Yep.
Yeah, just
and Peter
the
Frampton.
musicianship and the stage presence, all was just
Oh
incredible.
yeah, yeah. Because and Kiss was again that nobody, Alice Cooper sort of brought that makeup thing into but really Kiss brought it home. That was the level.
Yes.
And there was other bands that came along, but they couldn't touch it. And then you had Peter Frampton, who was just like you say, musicianship.
Yes,
That was it.
yes,
In
yes.
fact, that was it. I mean, he would.
The
there
talk
was,
box, all of it.
yeah,
Wah, wah,
but
wah,
other
wah.
than that, it was no show. It was just Peter
Yep.
out there
Yep.
playing
Yep.
songs,
Yeah.
and which was great stuff. And
Peter
then
Frampton Comes Alive. I'm in You.
Frampton Comes Alive.
I'm in You. That all those songs were just great.
Oh yeah, the biggest mistake, because I was close. Their manager, D. Anthony, Peter's manager, was like my godfather in the business. I was close to D right up to when he passed on. I mean, very, very close. And he used to talk about Peter Frampton as a musician, because at that point, Kiss had the Silver Album, and they would gone, and that was the two sides of the coin. The biggest mistake that Dee and Peter made was Sergeant Pepper. If he had not been involved in the movie Sergeant Pepper, everything would have been fine. And also a trivia. You want a little trivia?
Go ahead.
Peter Frampton was on this Frampton Comes Alive. Somehow Mick was the head roadie for Frampton. Mick Brigden somehow got involved, Peter Frampton got involved with Mick Brigden's girlfriend, and that ended that.
Ooh.
Mick went to, after he found that out, Mick went to Bill Graham Presents. Remember all the T-shirts and stuff? He headed up Bill, and he was Foreigner. Mick Brigden had Foreigner. I was always close with Mick, especially when he moved out. And we used to laugh. If you remember, Peter was in the Bahamas and drove into a tree. And we used to always laugh that I think her name was Sherry. Sherry drove Peter so crazy that he drove out of wherever they were staying and drove into a tree. Wow. Yeah, he almost died. Peter Frampton almost died if you look it up in Google. Yeah, but and Mick Brigden was with Bill Graham Presents for all the T-shirts and all that paraphernalia stuff, and that's where they wound up. And Peter had a falling out with Dee because of them signing on to Sgt. Pepper's, and it became such a fiasco. So that's my rock and roll story for the day.
And you know what? Yes was a great band.